Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Video Mail for the week of February 7th, 2011. And I picked this question because last month's lecture was on constraints, and I didn't go all the way into constraints as they pertain to FK-IK switches in rigs. And so I just wanted to answer this one, get it out of the way so that the entire constraints issue is totally buttoned up and totally done. So that's why I picked this question this week. Remember, if you want your question answered in an Ask Video Mail, you have to send it to me. So send it to webmaster@kennyroy.com and I will be sure to look at it. I look at all of them and I pick the ones that I think that are going to affect the most people and help the most people in their animation. So that's how you can interact with the site the most. All right, so take advantage of that. If you haven't asked a video mail question yet, and there's a lot of you, send one in because it'd be great to hear from everybody and get a lot of questions. Okay, so thank you for being a part of the site. Thank you for your continued support. Don't forget to refer members. Let's get to the question this week. This week's question is, so like I said, I didn't get quite into the way that FK-IK switches are constraints in last month's lecture, and that's my bad. But that's okay because it really is something that I can cover in a video mail, and I can really kind of make it, I think, manageable for everyone to understand. The way that FK and IK rigs are a constraint is you can think about it in terms of this. One rig is riding basically on top of another rig. So you are free and your constraint is basically turned off when you are working in FK, and you are constrained to an IK rig when you are in IK. All right, so let's take a look here. Here's Bloke again. The biggest problem that people have is that when they're animating in FK and then they switch to IK, they forget that they have values on their FK. So I just animated this character arm bending and then bending back, right? Very, very simple. If you look into the graph editor, here's the curve. However, if I switch to IK, nothing happens on the arm. Why? Because the bones are now constrained to that new IK rig. I can move this around. In fact, I can set it up here and down here and then back to the middle, and as you can see, it moves around. Okay? Now, if I go back to FK and I select my elbow control, if I go into the outliner and see where it is, it's right here, so I know where it's going to be. If I turn on the IK again and then select the elbow control, you'll see that curve is still there. Even though the IK is the rig that the arm is riding right now, that FK rig still has those keys on it. So the first thing that screws people up is that when you are switching between FK and IK, you'll get your arm into a position and then you'll animate your switch and it'll go back to the last position that you had your other rig system in. So what's going to happen if I dial the FK or the IK back down to FK? Do you remember what that middle key was on the FK rig? Try to think to yourself right now, what is going to happen when I turn this IK back down to FK? What was that key in the middle of of the timeline when I was using the FK rig? Right? It was basically arm up, elbow bent. That was it, right? And so when I dial this down, whoop, it goes back to that. So if you can think about it this way, there's two different skeletons that are moving. One allows you to bend the joints successively. Another allows you to grab the end joint and the bone system solves for the position that you've decided. Okay, you might not realize it, but what's going on behind the scenes of an FK or an IK system is actually pretty interesting. And they didn't have it for a very long time. I remember when I was at ILM, they said that they still had all FK rigs on Jumanji. So, I mean, that's pretty serious. We're talking late in the game here, folks. But what goes on behind the scenes of an IK system is actually very interesting. It actually is a solver. What it is you have a target, an IK handle, and you move it into position. And I'm not going to move my arm because that's kind of like the end result. You move it into position. What Maya does is it bends these bones in real time and tries to find how, using this bone system and making it so that the bones don't stretch or anything like that, how can I get this thing to fit and satisfy that goal that has been set? So it all happens very, very quickly because Maya's it's running on super powerful machines, and it's a very good system. But what it's doing is actually solving. That's why they call it a solver. It's solving this question in real time. Okay? So it's just, if you think about it this way, that there's two different rigs, and the only difference between them is that one allows you to bend the bones themselves, the other allows you to position the end joint. Normally it's on the wrist, but the other system allows you to position that end joint, and it will solve the other joints back up the chain to make your new position solved. Okay? And then switching between is just a matter of basically your visibility of your controls changes, and that's why it seems like it's screwing up. When in actuality these controls are still there and the bone system's still there. I mean, you can see actually right here. Look at this. Here's the shoulder and the elbow and the wrist control. That's the FK, and back here there's the IK. So you can see it's not like it's actually turning on. It's just the visibility on this rig switches at around 0.4 or maybe 0.5. Actually, it switches at 0.5. So there you go. So you can actually see where that's going to happen. All right, so the question was not just what is it, but it's also how to animate better transitions. Well, there's a couple different ways. First of all, you can key your transition over more than one frame. All right, so now let's take a look at another rig and actually do an action where we're going to blend between the FK and the IK. Okay, let's say we want a gesture, just like a small gesture, like one you would do with FK, just like across the body, and then planting the hand down on like a box, which is what you would want to do with IK, so that the hand can then basically stay still, right? So when the character is moving around. So here's Max for Maya. Okay, I'll give you guys the scene file as well. Okay, we're just going to key something really simple. Okay, and let's actually just make a quick select set. Arm FK. Okay, very, very simple, just like a small gesture across the body. A little bit of overlap. And what you're going to want to do is basically animate a little bit on either side of the transition, so that the transition, that smooth transition between FK to IK, is not so jarring, doesn't stick out so badly, okay? So let's say I want to contact on frame 20. All right, I'm going to actually animate the hand all the way down into position on frame 20. Let's get this thumb actually. Huh. Wow. There we go. Just trying to find the right stupid channel. Okay. So now we have this action of the hand moving up and then boom, slapping down. Disgustingly bad animation, I know. It doesn't really matter. Does it? Just I can't let it go. All right. Cross the body and then slap. Okay. Now, let's put a little bit of body animation in here so we are totally sure that when the animation, when the hand hits, that it's actually still in FK. Slap. See, it's going through and it's wiggling. Then what we do is, this is super easy. What we want to do is first delete the channel on the FK IK switch, okay? And as you can see, the snaps right back, right? And then we just want to animate basically kind of the same thing on the IK side. So let's move it into position, okay, and check it using the switch, okay. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you can actually get it pretty darn close. So let's try to get it close, right? All right, and then just check, animate back and forth, okay. Just a little bit more forward and a little bit more higher up, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to key this, and frame 20 was when it slapped. Bam. Yeah, some sick twist on there. One could even say it's sick and twisted. All right. Well, disregarding the nasty twist on the arm, don't worry about that for now. Okay. Now we see that the hand is obviously, slapping down, right? Aha. I just did an Euler filter on the keys, and it looks like the hand somehow got turned around. All right. Slap. Okay. So then we can go back to this channel, set a key, and on frame 20, we can turn it from FK to IK. Oops. Okay. So this is FK, and then boom. Oops. There, IK. Boom. See that? So we basically, the way it works is you animate just a little bit through that transition rather than trying to do like a one frame transition, because it doesn't, what you end up finding is that, oh my gosh, there's so many like little things that are popping. If you have a longer transition, you actually don't have to have it perfectly on. All you need to remember is that the character is going to basically leave behind the rig that the old rig that you just switched away from. So if you're now in IK, like the FK rig is going to be left behind where it was until you go back to it and animate it again. So if this is the FK position and this is the IK position and you turn on IK, there's still this arm. See my shadow? Actually, there's still this arm that is attached to the rig, that when you dial it back, whoop, it's going to go back to where it was, right? So this is how I like to animate the difference, or animate between FK and IK. The one thing you can do if you want to clean this up just a little bit more is, as you can see, the FK and IK controls, basically, I'm just going to delete this channel again. The controls basically only disappear somewhere here in the middle, as you can see. Okay, so one thing you can do is, if you really need to, let's actually set it to 0.5 and see what happens. There we go. If you set it to 0.5, most rigs actually have the visibility channel turn on and off depending on which mode you're in, FK or IK. So at 0.5 though, they're both showing. One thing you can do is to animate the middle of this transition a little bit better. So like frame 17, between 14 and 20 is 17, right? Is to actually leave the FK-IK switch on 0.5 and then actually try to match, if you can, the FK and IK just a little bit better. Okay? So that was the FK controls, and I'm kind of splitting the difference. I'm trying to kind of move, see, I'm moving the controls around and trying to fit one or the other. You see that? Actually back this up just a little bit, and this one as well. Okay, now the FK and IK really closely match, don't they? So my breakdown was created with the FK-IK switch at 0.5. Now we can go back in, set a key at 0, go back to frame 20, set a key at 1, and now there's absolutely no difference in this little transition. Now there's no breaking of that movement. So you can clean up halfway between your FK and your IK switch just to make sure it's extra good. And that's something that I don't normally see, and I haven't heard that taught before. That tip to keep it on like 0.5 so you can see both sets of controls and you can match it a little bit nicer. So basically, yeah, great question, and I hope that thinking about FK and IK switches as constraints where your bone system is either riding on top of one or the other helps you out. Don't think of it as this one bone like moving around. Think about it being constrained either to a system that just lets you move it by doing this, or constrained to a system that makes you be able to move it doing that. Okay? It's just like two different systems that you're animating the constraint. And remember, when you turn on and off a constraint, you don't turn, you can't animate the position of a constraint, just the strength of the constraint. So when you go from FK to IK, that FK system is still going to be left in the same state that you left it in. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you have any more questions, go ahead and post them in the forum and talk to each other about them, and I'll chime in if I see some compelling questions and arguments, and I like to interact with you guys. So the best way to do that is definitely to send your questions to me. So please send more questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thank you for being a part of the site. Thank you for your support. Good luck with your animation, and as always, rock on.